this lesson, we're going to start at the bottom of page 12. The top of page 12 shouldn't be there. So look at the bottom of page 12. We've already looked at solving quadratics with real answers, where we put in our calculator and we get a nice 2, a nice 4, or whatever. Now we've got to look at quadratics when we don't have those nice, pretty answers. For example, on page 13. If we were given that problem, x squared plus 16 equals 0. To solve it, I'm going to move 16 over. Then I'm going to take the square root. Now, here's my problem. That right there, that negative. That means I can't just put this in my calculator because I'm going to have real solutions. That negative tells me that I'm going to have imaginary solutions. So just like we looked at, wherever I have the negative under the square root, out is going to come an I. So when I bring I out, I'm going to look now at my 16. I know the square root of 16 is 4. So I'm going to have a 4i. Even when we take the square root of both sides, whether we have positives or negatives, we're still going to have those two answers, the positive and the negative. So even if we have an I or not, positive and negative. So now, look at the bottom of that page. You may pause and try these on your own, or you can work through with me on them. X squared plus 9 equals 0. I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. Alright, then I'm going to take the square root of both sides. When I do that, that tells me that I'm going to have a positive and a negative. Alright, I've got a negative in there, so out's going to come an I. Then I'm left with the square root of 9, which I know is 3. So my answer is x equals plus or minus 3. I can't forget about my I. Alright, number 2, I'm going to subtract 49. We'll take the square root. Automatically know I'm going to have a positive and a negative. Negative comes out, becomes I, and the square root of 49 is 7i. Alright, subtract 6. Take the square root. Still dealing with positive and plus and minus answer. Now, when I have that square root of negative 6, I know I'm going to take that out. That's going to become an I. But if I break 6 down into 3 times 2, I don't have any pairs. So the only thing going to come out of that negative root 6 is the I, and I'm going to leave 6 in. So I don't have any pairs. Alright, at the top of page 14. Both of these are quadratics that have been graphed. You can tell because of the parabola shape. The first graph has real solutions, meaning I can plug the whole thing in my calculator and I don't have to deal with a negative square root anywhere. It's got real solutions because it crosses that x-axis here. So there's a solution, and I'm going to abbreviate solution as SOLN. There's my second solution. Clearly crosses, I've got real answers. The second graph, the one on the right, has imaginary roots because it does not cross. It's still got answers, but because it never crosses this, I've got roots somewhere up here. So it's got imaginary roots. Alright, what if I'm not given the graph and I need to know if I can actually plug it into my calculator? Because I can't plug in a square root of a negative in my calculator. It gives me an error. To figure that out, I'm looking at the discriminant. The discriminant is the number under the square root. Because, it's called that because it discriminates between real and imaginary numbers. Now the key here is it's the number under the square root. I don't include that square root when I'm finding it. I can determine if I'm going to have a real solution or imaginary one just by looking at that discriminant. If it gives me a positive, I've got real. If it gives me a negative, and I'm going to take the square root of negatives, I'm going to have imaginary numbers. Alright, this page is not in your notes. When I was kind of doing my own study and I had a recollection that I needed to put something like this in there. So if you want to work on this somewhere in your foldable if you want to do it on the cover, or on a sheet of notebook paper, whatever. Pause it here and get your stuff ready to copy these problems. All right. If I look at the first one, what I want to do is I want to find that discriminant. Okay, that's going to tell me what kind of answers I have. Then I actually need to identify those answers, what they're going to be, if they're going to be real, imaginary, or whatever. To find the discriminant, I'm looking underneath that radical. Okay, I'm going back to my quadratic formula. Everything under that is my discriminant. However, I ignore the radical. So I am just looking for this. B squared minus 4ac. Nothing underneath the radical. I mean, everything underneath the radical, not the radical itself. All right, so if I look at number 1, I know I've got A, B, and C still. Same old same. B squared, so 6 squared, minus 4 times A times C. Now, because I'm not dealing with a radical yet, I can plug that into my calculator. That's same old normal. When I do that, I get 16. 6 squared, 36, minus 20, 16. That answer, that discriminant right there, it's a positive 16, tells me that I'm going to have 2 real solutions if I were to go on and solve that problem. I'm going to have 2 reals, meaning if I graphed it, my parabola is crossing that x-axis twice. All right, number 2, I'm going to look at A, B, and C. So A, B, and C. Now, when I square B here, it's already a negative. I've got to remember to put that in parentheses. It's going to throw it off if I don't. So negative 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times 1, A and C. When I plug that into my calculator, I get 0. 0 tells me that I'm going to have 1 real solution. 1 real solution. I'm going to only have 1 answer, and it's going to be a real answer. If I graphed that, it would look like that. There's my 1 answer. It only crosses the x-axis 1 time. All right, last one. A, B, C. So negative 3 squared minus 4 times 1 times 10. All right, plug that in my calculator. We've got 9 minus 4 times 1 times 10, so 9 minus 40, which is a negative 31. The negative tells me that I have 2 imaginary solutions. So that would be a problem that if I was using the quadratic formula, put it in my calculator, it's going to give me an error because of that negative right there. I can't take the negative square root in my calculator. So this graph would look like this. Never touches that x-axis. Alright, so we want to now actually solve these problems using that quadratic formula. The best method to do is go first, find that discriminant. That's going to tell me if I'm going to waste my time by putting it in a calculator and get an error. So first to find my discriminant, I've got A, B, and C. So I'm going to take 4 squared minus 4 times 3 times 3. All right, 16 minus 4 times 3 times 3. And I'm just going to go ahead and plug that in my calculator and make it a whole lot easier. That's going to give me negative 20. Negative 20 tells me I'm going to have some imaginary answers. I'm just going to go and make a note. Okay? Now, I've got that discriminant right there. So the hard part's done in my quadratic formula. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to go back to my formula. I'm going to set it up. So I'm going to take opposite B, plus or minus. I found what needs to go under my radical when I found my discriminant, all over 2 times A. Now, I can't leave my answer like that. That's a very ugly answer. So I'm going to simplify that radical. Got a negative, so out's going to come an I. And 20, 10 gets out, 1 stays in. So negative 4 plus or minus 2, can't forget my I, and I've got a 5 still in. You didn't have a partner. Over 6. Now, I've got 2 solutions there. I've got a positive and a negative. So there are my 2 solutions. So that's covered. Now I want to simplify. This answer as much as possible. On typical standardized tests, they will separate this out for you. So you'll see negative 4 over 6 plus or minus 2I over 5 over 6. On the SAT and ACT, you'll see it simplified like this. Now I can look at and see if I can simplify fractions. Negative 4 over 6 can be simplified to negative 2/3, and 2/6 can be simplified to 1/3. So instead of writing the 1, I'm just going to write I root 5 over 3. There are my 2 solutions. Now, you might see it typically this way, but I can also put it back because I've got the same denominator as that too. Same thing, this one's just been separated out so I can simplify as much as possible. Alright, if you want to try the second one on your own, pause it, and then come back and watch. Alright, I'm going to erase what I've got so far so I can have some room to work. I'm going to erase that first problem. I'm going to look at the second one. Alright, we've got A, B, and C. Same old, same old. But I'm going to go ahead and find my discriminant. So 4 squared minus 4 times A times C. And when I simplify that out, I get negative 8. So I know I'm going to have some imaginary answers. Meaning I'm going to have to simplify an I somewhere. Alright, put it back in my quadratic formula. Opposite B plus or minus the square root of negative 8, my discriminant, all over 2A. Alright, negative comes out, I. Then I've got 8, which is 4 and 2, 2 and 2, so out comes a 2. So negative 4 plus or minus